You're listening to GCN, the Genesis Communications Radio Network.
We are back live. All right, going to your calls throughout this hour into the next. I've got a bunch of other news that is very important as well. We'll be getting into dealing with our liberties and freedoms, but just finishing up with the controlled corporate press owned by the military-industrial complex posing as the liberal press. Their job is to divide the American people against each other. So Garofalo and others all over these stations are meant to come out and sound ridiculous and meant to create hatred of the left by the right and vice versa. This is divide and conquer. And it's Fox News' job, now that the right is out of power, to pose as the opposition. Because they're out of power, why they can be the opposition, and suddenly, yes, there's a new world order, Sean Hannity says, and they want a bank of the world, we've got to stop it. And Rick Perry, the feds are tyranny, they're coming down on us with tyranny, we need to secede. And then a couple days later, I was just joking. Because he's blown his credibility, letting the globalists take over with the Trans-Texas Corridor and violating the will of the legislature and the people's votes and going to Bilderberg Group meetings and trying to force kids to take HPV shots. But at least we're forcing them to admit all this is real and true now. All these years, people said there wasn't a new world order, and now they have to admit it. The point is they want us to divide into a left-right paradigm instead of saying no to domination. It's liberty versus tyranny. All right, I'm done talking about that. Let's talk to Forrest in Austin, Texas. Thank you for holding, Forrest.
Yes, sir, Alex Jones. Well, I'd like to talk about how the establishment uses the Bible teaching, the Word of God, how they twist it to further their agenda, and also about the Tea Party and how they demonize people, like you're talking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, in Romans 13, it's really talking about being a prayer and praying for the government to be of God, and also the war on the people. When it talks about going into the kingdom of God is harder than a camel cigarette going through the eye of a needle. What they're talking about are the trillionaires, because I know people, I've driven people over the years to the airports who are hundreds, thousandaires, millionaires, multimillionaires, and they're all good people, and they donate to charity, and they are following God's will by not sinning and working their butts off in order to get where they are. So there is a war on the people, and these people who the establishment wants us to think are rich and need to pay more. Those are the people that create jobs.
Well, you have to look at the context of everything Christ was saying. He was pointing down the wall in Jerusalem at the eye of the needle, which was one of the smallest gates in the Jerusalem wall that a camel would have to crouch down to crawl through. So it's all specific, but go ahead and make your Tea Party point, because I've got a comment about Romans 13.
Yes, sir. Well, it was cool meeting Jason Wormus there. He does a show in your studio during weekdays, and it was cool seeing your camera crew up there. And yeah, man, I mean, the establishment wants to put people in a box, but all I saw were just good-hearted, all-loving Americans who are tired of tyranny and who are getting together.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians are all together. Americans aren't allowed to say that they don't want a massive tax rate. That's terrorism. I mean, if you read all these federal reports that we've been breaking, if you read these reports, it says you protest the private Federal Reserve, you're a terrorist. It says you're a returning veteran. See, they know the military isn't going to want to go along with deploying in the U.S. as the globalists implode us. So they're saying, the military that doesn't follow orders, they're terrorists. And they're white supremacists. So they're trying to divide blacks and whites and Hispanics from each other in the military. Like if you say, I don't like what the banks are doing. Oh, my gosh, you're a white supremacist. See, it isn't going to work. So let the establishment desperately say, look, 98% of Americans in major polls, there have been Scripps Howard News Service polls. I've seen polls put out by Gallup. I mean, a bunch of them. 98, or in some cases more percentage, against what the bankers are doing. And then Garofalo says, no, they all just hate black people. But it's the same. That's a White House talking point. By the way, he's not even black, so it doesn't matter. He's 6.5% African. He's half white, and the other half is mainly Arab. But side issue, it doesn't matter what Barack Obama is. The point is they're making it about that because they can't go off of what he actually stands for. Now, there is a viral YouTube video up, Baptist pastor beaten and tased by Border Patrol, 11 stitches. A Baptist preacher. And we've got him coming on tomorrow, by the way, on the weekday show. Now, he tells the story. They have these checkpoints 75 to 100 miles in. Everybody gets sick of being stopped at them. They only search citizens, it seems. I've been through them. And they want to search him. He says, no, you've got to have a Fourth Amendment. You can't just stop everybody here randomly. So they double tase him, beat his head in the ground, bust his head open. And they always falsely charge you with assaulting them, even when it's on tape that you didn't. And then this is what Liberal Spirit said when I just happened to click on the video and watch it. This is just one of the comments of hundreds. With all due respect to this gentleman, those who believe in the Bible should remember the admonishment to render to Caesar that which is Caesar's. When you resist illegal, recognized authority, you take responsibility for the consequences of your action. Had this man simply assented to the search because he had nothing to hide, apparently none of this would have happened. You mean in Dallas when they pull you over and throw chalk in the back of the car and then take your car and then go take your house? Dallas Morning News admits to thousands of citizens. You mean when Hitler was doing what he did, we should have not fought him because, that's a government, that's of the Lord. What about when Moses wouldn't do what Pharaoh said? I thought the government was put in by God. Why were almost all of the prophets put in the lion's den, put in the furnace, crucified, boiled in oil? Why was Paul in prison? Why was Paul finally killed by these people? Because he was doing whatever they said? Okay, the Pharisees, are trying to set up Jesus to kill him, saying, we shouldn't pay our taxes, huh? You're saying, because he's saying you shouldn't follow the government. You should do what God says. And Christ says, and Paul repeats it later, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and unto God that which is God. He's saying that tax system is separate. They were trying to set him up to stone him to death or get him arrested. I guess the founding fathers were bad. This is a cop-out of cowards. Look, I told you this a year and a half before it was declassified. The federal government is paying off even the smallest churches with money. You wondering how you got 100 people in your church, but the preacher's got a big parsonage and a brand new car and new vans and new color TVs in the church? He's on federal payroll. Now, First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That is the separation of church and state. You notice the liberals didn't like it when Bush was violating it. Now Obama's still violating it because they're on the payroll just like in the Soviet Union. There's secret police all over the place. The bankers aren't going to take everything you got without having a police state grid in place to suppress you when you try to take over the government rightfully and bring them to justice. Let's take another call. Brian in New Jersey. Brian, you're on the air.
Hi, Alex.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Hi. I just got finished watching Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher talking about the absurdity of the FEMA camps, and boy, is he going to be surprised.
Well, his job is the same as all other operatives, Mockingbird operatives. Their job is to say there is no New World Order, there is no global government.
Absolutely.
Glenn Beck did straw.
Just feed the propaganda into your head.
Well, I mean, Glenn Beck did a straw man that I predicted. He went and covered a railway station that everybody's known as fake since 1995, Linda Thompson put out. And I predicted that. And that's it. He didn't cover the bills, the legislation, the Houston Chronicle, the New York Times.
Not at all. I didn't hear anything about that.
No, it's a straw man.
I wanted to get on a subject you were talking about earlier, climate control. And what's recently been concerning me is the high-frequency active auroral research program.
Yes.
HAARP, they have?
Yes, I do.
And their climate control methods, obviously. And I guess I'm myself concluding that one of the factors that they use to make that a stronger mechanism is to get the radio waves out and have everybody switch to the high definition boxes.
Well, that's separate from radio waves. That's being fed through the signal. Look, sir, that box is just a converter, sir. I like to stick with what we can prove. I had the director of HAARP, the director of the facility on, last year. I had the director of HAARP on the radio. Just Google Alex Jones interviews head of HAARP. And he started bragging about how they can set the atmosphere on fire with these antennas. Oh, yeah. And I interviewed Ben Livingston, the father of weather weapons. And it was declassified in 2002. That's how I found out about it and called Livingston up. Like 90 years old at the time. I think he's still alive. And it subsequently ended up being big news around the country. They can create hurricanes, kill hurricanes, start them up. This is a conspiracy theory. I only cover what's documented. And yes, they are manipulating the weather. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Second hour straight ahead.
It's no secret that Genesis Communications Network depends on listeners like you. Now you can do even more to hear Genesis shows in your area. Simply call your local radio stations and tell them about your favorite GCN programs. It's easy. Log on to GCNlive.com or call us toll-free 877-807-4048. Make a difference. Call your local stations and contact us through affiliate relations at GCNlive.com or call 877-807-4048. Call today.